following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Well, no, what I'm saying is someone's still going to win, and it might be weak. If just
I know
half the field, if just about half the field is playing badly, with golf, you can easily say, "Oh, the course must be hard. They're all playing bad." You know what I mean? It all kind of comes back to earth a little bit.
Sergio has been like, I can't wait to leave this place. Rah, 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 rah.
Yeah. And good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Divots and Pivots. This is episode 2 of the new second season. And we do have a special guest joining us at some point later. So stick around for that. Should be good. But we have plenty to talk about tonight. Lots of stuff happening in the world. And yes, we will get to who took down the first week victory. As I can see, a bottle of champagne is already getting prepared over there. So I think I think Bud might have some plans, but anyways, Bud, how are you doing this evening? Yeah, that's what I figured. You guys should have seen the memes.
All right, well,
since I led the first 3 days, and then out of nowhere, Bud comes storming back on day 4 to grasp victory.
Funny thing is that's not even why I'm celebrating. You know why I'm celebrating. We knew I was going to hand you your ass on a platter. It was going to happen. It was just a matter of time. I am better than you at this, and that's what everybody knows. I'm just kidding. I'm actually exhibiting the same peacockingness that University of Georgia fans across the country are. Go Dogs. Last night was an ass whooping of historic perspectives. And for anybody who wants to be like, oh, I'm sick of it, let's move on, parody. Great. When it's your team, you'll be with me. I'm going to ride this wave as long as humanly possible, straight on into 2023 in that really brutal opening schedule we have against like UT Martin and Ball State. But that's the kind of mood. The popping of the Martinelli's sparkling cider. That's not champagne. That shit goes straight to my head. This is some leftover sparkling cider that the kids had at Thanksgiving and Christmas. So, I couldn't be happier. It was a weird feeling. I was saying it all day. I felt like the Dogs were gonna meander through the first quarter because it's a big game and the adrenaline's running high. But to quote, I don't know who said, they can't hang with our shit. It was men against boys out there, and you see the difference in the different tiers in college football. But that also highlights a different topic on college football. Is this what parity really looks like? And when NIL finally starts to come in to where it's just a shit show in the offseason of transfers and who can give who the most money and wink, wink, nod, nod. Is it still going to be these same 5 teams? The fact that they've expanded it to 12 teams means that we could get this in the future, but we'll get these kind of matchups early on, and it's going to then whittle down to a proper Final Four where USC or Tennessee is in that final spot besides TCU, because I feel bad for the future TCUs. I was listening to Dan Patrick this morning. He said, what happens next year when Tulane goes 13-0 again? Everybody's going to say, sorry, dude, look what happened last year.
What happened.
Shouts to the Dogs. Sorry, Frogs. Stetson Bennett's a god. And here's to everybody in Athens and around the world celebrating today.
Well, I saw something interesting someone posted on Twitter, because my initial thought when I saw the final score, because I, like everyone else, stopped watching that game. Well, not like everyone else. I know you probably watched the whole thing through, but I know when I woke up in the morning and saw what the final score ended up being, I just went, what a joke. What a joke of a result for a national championship. But then someone reminded me on Facebook, and I forget the exact – I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but the last – I want to say back to like 2018 – maybe they went as far back. Like every national championship game has been at least like a 15-point margin of victory, I think. So like,
except for once again, thanks for bringing up old shit. Except for once again, Tua 2nd and 26. Ask any Alabama or SEC, what does 2nd and 26 mean to you?
Sure.
And they'll start tearing up.
But the point I'm trying to make is it's not like the national championship games have actually been pretty lopsided for a little while now. So it's not like, yes, this was outrageously lopsided, but it's not like this was the one out of every other game being, overtime down to the last play, something like that. No, it's been pretty lopsided for a while.
It's still, I think, the best. They're getting it better and better, and I think a 12-team playoff is the way to go. What they're about to do, not next year, but the following year. This is going to be the last year of a Final Four, and then it's going to move to 12 teams, and you're going to have the 5 major conferences, the highest ranked of the group of 5, and then you're going to have 6 at large. It's going to be another step in the right direction. I think the days of worrying about cheapening the tradition is over. Once the Rose Bowl finally caved and said, all right, let's just do what's best for everybody, you'll keep tradition. They'll figure out a way to let the Rose Bowl still get a nice product to put on display, but it's bigger than any individual game. Now it's such a moneymaker for everybody that it's that's what got them is scuttlebutt was that finally the powers that be said, all right, Rose Bowl committee, enough of this. You know what? You don't want to play ball? We'll just let your contract run out and then we'll just move forward without you. Because truth be told, if Jarrett Jones down there was like, excuse me, what? Yeah, we'll host the Cotton Bowl and whatever bowl you want to call it. Like it's fine. We'll do that. So I'm glad that it worked out the way it did, both for Georgia and for college football writ large. I can, by the way, completely can understand the haters who don't want the Dogs or to hear me talk about this shit, because when Alabama wins, I don't want to hear about it. When Ohio State wins, I want to hear about it, people spent 20 years not wanting to hear the Patriots talk, Patriot fans talk, and quick pivot, early pivot from college football. And this is actually kind of a hint at divot or pivot later on. We'll get into the actual divots or pivots. We can do it now and just wait while we wait on our guest anyways. But the number one for me would be, I saw a lot of this. By the way, I had the Pats making the playoffs. Remember early in the season, I said they're going to find a way to just fall ass backwards and meander their way into a wild card. Hey, we were close.
It would have been a hell of a falling backwards end for sure.
Two kick returns. Like that is like a professional.
But special teams has been like their biggest downfall.
Irrelevant. I saw a lot of chatter both internally and externally, including my own group chats and friends, and then also saw it through the Belly Up channels. Man, glad they lost. Didn't want to have any part of that postseason. You know what? And I said this soft as a fan, soft. People be like, man, glad they. And here's why. As a fan, you want your team to have a shot. So to openly go in saying, no, don't, I'm scared of the postseason. Yeah. Why? These are professionals. And any of these guys lining up across from one another on any day I get the cheeky little, oh God, but who knows? Maybe that was it. It was like, it was going to be just a defense and special teams, obviously not freaking special teams. But it could have been just a defensive run through the playoffs. They weren't going to make it too far. They may have eked out but I do take umbrage with people who are saying like didn't want them to win in the first place. You know what?
So and here's what I found, because I couldn't. So I tried to be like that, because I found myself in conversations with friends and family members and random people at the bar being like, you know what, they're not going to do anything in the playoffs. I want to make sure they realize they need to change something in the staff and the coaching staff. So losing would probably be better. So I don't care if they win. And the second the game would start, I found myself cheering for them, because what else am I going to do? I'm a fan. I can't turn it off. So
yeah.
I was talking out of both sides of my mouth when it came to the subject.
I do get it. It's people hedging. It's kind of like in the college football world. As soon as that second loss comes, when you're really out of the running, then you do start saying those crazy things like, shit, I hope we don't beat Tennessee next week, because then, if we don't beat Tennessee, then they can do this. And Florida's, you start saying crazy shit. And sometimes it's for draft. But I was poking every bear I could find of people saying like, glad we lost. I'm like, then like, that's just illogical to say, to square that circle. So it was fun. Yeah. I do think that they would not have won the Super Bowl at all, but but look how big the new NFL, playoff system is. It's it's getting criticized too, right? 14 teams. What do you think? Divot or pivot on the new NFL? We got 14 teams, one bye. What do you think about the new NFL playoff format?
I'll say divot on it, because I think it's fine. Right now, if they go bigger than this, that's where I think we lose it. But I think right here, I'm all right with only one team getting a bye, and that's where
I love that.
I think this could be the happy medium, because only one team gets awarded that bye week. I think it makes it obviously more of an advantage to be that one team. So yeah, I'm a divot on the playoff schedule. I am perfectly fine with it. It doesn't need to go any bigger, and I don't feel the need to go back to the way it was to make it smaller. So the NFL is all right in my books at this moment when it comes to the playoffs.
I agree.
Now, if you want to talk about playoff matchups, this weekend is actually going to suck.
Talk to me, Goose.
The matchups this weekend are just
obviously I've been on tunnel vision between prepping for the Sony Open in Hawaii, which this is a fantasy golf show. We will get to golf.
Yes,
There's plenty of golf to talk about, including the ass whooping I hated Andrew. Yeah, brought it up.
It wasn't even an ass whooping. You got to calm yourself down.
I got to peek. I can't even tell you how I won. I was writing a concession article about.
And then you looked at the score and went, "Shit, I won."
I did. I absolutely did. The title of the article was "Losing Sucks," and I was prepping. I was speaking of hedging, I was prepping for a Georgia loss and a loss to you. And I was kind of like, that was going to be the whole mantra. And then all of a sudden, what do you know? I mean, but you know what, Andrew, some people were just born winners, and I happen to be those people.
Yeah. Look here.
I'm just kidding. Talk to me about this weekend.
So here's the thing about this weekend. I may have oversold it. It's not that it's going to suck. I just don't think there's going to be quite as many great games as we would hope for. The Saturday games are all right. Well, it really depends on which Jacksonville team we get in the Chargers. And same thing with the Chargers. Honestly, both of them could show up and do nothing because that's been their MO. They're inconsistent. Both of them could show up and it could be a great game. We just don't know. Seahawks and 49ers is kind of the same deal. We'll see if Geno Smith and the offense continues to surprise.
At least Seattle and 49ers has some sort of shall I say, those are, again, to use a college analogy, those are kind of blue chip programs or traditionally powerhouse. That's a fit. So when you hear Seattle and San Francisco, traditionally, you're like, ooh, that's a fun game because they hate each other back in the day. With the Chargers and the Jags, I think if there were rewards given out, because if you're not watching this, you're watching the Golden Globes, and we're going to get to that in a second. That game is most likely to end in a tie, period. And I know when people would be like, well, no, it's a playoff game. It can't end in a tie. No, if you told me Jags and Chargers, I'd say tie. Just because going straight off of the very shallow stigma around the team, which I'm going to skip Sunday for a minute. I want you to go to Sunday, but Monday night, they think they have this marquee matchup with Brady against the star. They do. Yeah. I mean, it's a great story.
Could be because the Cowboys kind of flopped last week, and I know the Bucs did too, but they also sat a bunch of their guys at the end, and we've seen that they can turn it on at times. We'll just see if they're able to. Like the Bucs could sneak out a win there. I'm not going to rule that out. That one will make it good to watch.
Never underestimate Dallas' ability to F it up. I mean, it since Jimmy and Troy left, they seem to always kind of Romo something around this time of year. So look for that performance too.
But then we get the Vikings and Giants at 4:30 on Sunday, who, in my opinion, are just two fake teams this year. Like I know their records are their records, but I feel like the way they got them, they're not as good as their records say. And then the poor Dolphins, who are just injury ridden right now, having to go up against the Bills, the Dolphins, who the Jets last week. Like what I think that final score was 11-6 or something. It was just an absolute ugly nightmare.
It was a high school baseball
That's going to be a snooze fest because the Bills are just going to trounce them.
Mike McCarthy sounds like, he sounds like the guy at Best Buy who's letting you know that there's nothing he can do. The warranty's run out. You should have done the extended warranty. I understand this sucks. I heard his press conference earlier talking about Tua, and you would think, and again, to steal some other talk radio I heard today, and that's what made it did sound like he was talking about preseason. Yeah. Like, what do you mean you hope he gets some reps in this week? I go back to
playoffs.
You're talking. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about like life career defining runs and weeks and moments. And I don't know. Yeah. Now, is Mike McCarthy really as zen as he comes across? Maybe. No. But I doubt it. But those guys, I think Bill Belichick's the closest thing to zen.
Are you trying to say Mike McDaniels, not Mike McCarthy?
Thank you, Mike McDaniels.
That's what I thought. I was waiting for.
I have the Green Bay dude in my brain.
Mike McDaniels. Yeah.
Where the fuck is Mike McCarthy?
I think he might still be on the Dallas staff. Actually, I'm honestly not 100% sure. He might still be on the Dallas staff.
I just can't help that Mike McDaniels. Thank you very much for that. Don't at me, people. Remember, I'm the golf guy on this show. Mike McDaniels kind of looks like Rodrigo Blankenship's brother, and he just talks
Right?
like a
He
really.
kind of does.
He does, and he just talks like a really sad customer service rep.
Well,
So
let's
yeah,
quickly, before we get too far into divots and pivots here,
please.
not the name of the show, but into our divots and pivots, I do want to quickly wrap up the winner. We already said you won. I
Yes.
lost week 1. It was close. It was 636. You wrote down 601. I thought DraftKings said I scored like 605, so we'll check that. But unless they might have did an adjustment, maybe, I don't know. But either way, low 600s for me. So Bud is up. So we're gonna keep track of total points on the year. We're going to keep track of most weekly wins on the year. And we're going to keep track of the highest week on the year as, at least for now, kind of 3 separate bets. And we'll see at the end of the year who kind of puts together the best winning across all 3, I guess.
Resume.
Yeah, the portfolio, so that's what you're going to be hearing us talking about. You're going to be, and we're going to, as you saw this week, there's going to be graphics coming out more consistently, giving you an update as the weekends roll on. So make sure to be at Divots and Pivots, at Real Mr. Mallard, and at This Buds for you for all those updates.
You said it 3 times. Go ahead.
I did say it 3 times. And then moving on from that, I know you did a lot of talking last year about your other league. Are you doing another league again this year? Like with your friends? Okay.
So I've been in this league for like 5 years now, and the commissioner Justin, who runs it, is phenomenal. He's just one of those guys who created a really intricate system of Google Sheets, and it's fun because he makes it really easy to participate. Super simple format. We use, I think, Bovada odds, 4 tiers. You pick a golfer from each tier. Total, their money winnings is your point total, and that's who wins the week. So it is much more of a if you nail the winner, you're going to win, because that automatically wipes out any kind of. It's rare to ever have somebody pick a winner and then them not win the week. That said, it is kind of cool because you get 4 chances, but there's like 27 of us, and it runs all year long. And they do, like I said, it's the best balance of fantasy fun and kind of mindless fantasy fun, because you don't have to get too analytical. You can grind yourself to death when in reality what you're trying to do is literally pick a winner from each tier. The kind of deep hardcore analysis you get for divots and pivots in the DraftKings world, you don't necessarily need it, but it keeps you super engaged. The people are fun. The writing is really funny. He sends out a weekly update, and he does a good job. I did not finish in the money last week. I put too much stake in Justin Thomas, and he did not play very well. I think I finished, T12 out of 20 some odd teams. But I'll give you some periodic updates. You'll especially hear if I hit some winners this year. I for years I had a winning streak with Brooks Koepka in the majors when he was on his little run. I was a big Zalatoris guy, recently. I don't know who my major player is going to be this year. I always feel like I want to hang my hat on somebody. Cam Smith, if he's allowed in all of them, might be that guy. Thank you for mentioning that, because shouts to the other league. It's a fun crew. It's a fun time. And it's a great way just to stay engaged at a base level and free my brain up to go through here and continue to kick your rear end up and down the PGA Tour schedule. A couple things before we divot or pivot.
Yes.
PGA Tour, not the only thing going on this week. Corn Ferry's back in action. DP World Tour is in action. And I believe next week we get the LPGA Tour back. But Latin American Amateur, pay attention to Puerto Rico this week. Latin American Amateur for the uninitiated. That's such a dickhead way to put it. For the uninitiated, the Latin American Amateur is one of the relatively newer kind of global amateur tournaments, started in 2015 as really like a partnership between Augusta National, RNA, USGA, all these governing bodies to say, how can we create a pathway for the young amateur golfers in this part of the world, the way that we have for obviously in America and Europe and even in the Asian parts over in Asia with the Asian Pacific tours and those amateur events. So it's kind of it's a fun way to watch, and it's bringing some more focus to golf in that part of the world. So pay attention to Puerto Rico, because the winner is going to get an invite to the Masters. They get an invite to any USGA championship that they qualify for, save the US Open. But if they do get automatic qualifying into the US Open finals kind of qualifying stages. So just a little shout and a wink and a nod to the other golf that's going on. Pay attention to it for the fun stories. That's where you get these future Zalatorises and Sam Burns and stuff like that, or Scotty Schefflers, who Scotty Scheffler and Colin Morikawa. We'll get into that. We don't have to talk too much about it. They just kind of laid eggs on the weekend. I did. If you roll back the tape, I said John Rahm. If you're gonna, his form is good. He was runner up last year, and sure enough, he found magic in a bottle on Sunday, and he was able to kind of a very uncharacteristic mistake from Colin Morikawa, but it wasn't. He was ranked triple digits in almost every major category statistically until this week. So to see him kind of falter a little towards the end, I don't think it's anything more indicative than it's early. But if he shows up like he was hitting the ball, he's gonna be a scary guy to watch. We don't have a ton of people to watch this week in Sony, but but beyond that. But before we get into this week in fantasy, Twiff. I'm working on that. I don't think Twiff is going to take off. I just think it sounds kind of dirty.
Yeah.
But divot or pivot time. There are some things in the world I wanted to get your take on. And since we're talking about the Sony Open and stuff, Hawaii, divot or pivot on the state of Hawaii. You go first. I don't want to piss off the Aloha crowd.
So you just mean in general, or like just my overall thoughts on it, kind of thing, like.
Yes. What is Hawaii?
Okay. I didn't know if you were looking for like an angle on it. Yeah, no. So my opinions on Hawaii is that I've never been, so I don't know anything more than what I've seen on TV, what I've heard. So I don't personally know, but from what I've been able to tell, people seem very nice. Everything seems super expensive. Not convinced it would be worth the travel for me to go. So I guess I'm a pivot on it.
Nicest pivot I've ever heard in my life, but I agree with you. Run fast from it. Shit's overpriced. I feel like it's stuck in 1957. And quite frankly, you could probably get a similar experience in Puerto Rico for I'm not getting paid by the Tourism Bureau of Puerto Rico or anything like that. That's where, again, the Latin American Open.
Now from a golf standpoint, though, totally a divot for Hawaii golf on the PGA Tour. The Hawaii swing is a fantastic way to start the year because we get low scores, we get lots of scoring. We're sitting up here in the snow watching golf on the weekends of beautiful palm trees, nice weather, T-shirts. So
I do agree that I like the historical aspect. I like the historical aspect of starting the year off out in Hawaii, but they're not going to get a dime of my money. Award shows. If you're not watching this, you're watching the Golden Globes. What do you think? And I will say I got to put a caveat out there because you got a big fat awards trophy over your shoulder hanging up on the wall with that champion's belt. So I don't know if this is an easy one or not, but how do you feel about award shows? Divot or pivot?
Pivot. Award shows annoy the hell out of me. I don't think I think I'm trying to think of like the last time I sat down and purposely to watch an award show, and I'm thinking it must have been like when I was in high school to watch like the MTV Awards or something, like the VMAs or something like that. And even then, no, I'm good without them. I just think there's so much. It's boring.
I'm all about awards and recognition, and I think award shows are outdated and useless. I'm a hard pivot on award shows, any and all of them. I'll take all the awards and accolades. If I get nominated, I will accept on behalf of anyone. I'll do so graciously. That said, I think they're a relic of old times back in the day where you had to wait and get everybody into one place at one time to share information. Now you were out a Twitter poll and we could find out who likes your background more than mine in about 5 seconds. So to that end, I say screw the Golden Globes. Look at all the controversy.
Unpopular.
Still find a way to recognize these folks, but turn it over to the mob and the popular vote, in my opinion, and get rid of it. It's outdated. People can get much more engaging entertainment from TikTok and divots and pivots.
The unpopular comparison and take care for award shows is award shows are like weddings. The women like the ceremony because they like to get dressed up and be around other dressed up people, but everyone's really going for the after party. And that's what the award show scene has become. The celebrities they don't go for the show itself. They don't give a shit about that. They just want to get their award, go backstage, and they shoot off to the after party.
Definitely not our crowd. But we wouldn't turn down an invite to an after party, any of them. Last but certainly not least, I alluded to it earlier, and I didn't use the word on purpose because I wanted to get your take on this, and I heard a lot about it. People describing Colin Morikawa as a collapse. Divot or pivot on the collapse label to Colin Morikawa?
I think for this week, I think it's somewhat fair. Just because of the way he finished that round 3, he went on that crazy birdie streak. He was up 6 strokes. And considering the scoring that was out there for round 4, I mean, John Rahm went 10 under to win. I mean, just about everybody was like 4, 5, 6 under. Morikawa went 1 under. And that's just when there's that much scoring on the course and you were leading the tournament by 6 strokes, there's no excuse to not win. in my opinion.
I put this out there originally trying to be contrarian and say no. Now he totally collapsed. At one point, his lead was up to 9. And to
Yeah.
use a college football, analogy, that's like a team saying like, yeah, but we scored 4 times in the first quarter. Well, when the fourth quarter, when everybody else was, so I get what you're saying. I think it's fair. I think you can dig in. Here's the thing: a guy like Morikawa, it's not gonna affect him. It's gonna
No.
embolden him. I don't think we're gonna see him go away.
That's why I
think it's a
want to be
wake-up
clear
call.
that for this week, I said it was like, and then the past is the past now, I feel. I don't think it
Yeah.
embodies him as a player. I don't think that's like a trait of his now or anything. I think he just had a moment.
Yeah, exactly. But Colin Morikawa's collapse does make me think it's time to go to tea time, a little bit of golf talk, strictly golf talk. And speaking of collapses, greatest collapses of all time. I mean, okay, if you go
I know
by
you're going to hit me
numbers,
with some old ones here because I know there's been some gems.
I mean, there's really only one that sticks out to me, and there's heartbreak all over the place. But the one that sticks out to me, aside from Morikawa, by the numbers, 9-shot lead and the whole bit,
Yeah.
like, come on, dude.
Yeah,
You gotta like
that
you said,
doesn't happen often.
You're not at Shinnecock waiting on you effed up the single, in some years, the single easiest scoring hole on the PGA Tour, and on par 5, and your opponent goes driver 9-iron and makes an eagle, like right there. It's kind of like, yeah, you're outmatched. That said, Colin Morikawa for president. I think he's gonna President's Cup. I think he's gonna do great things for us. Greg Norman, 1996.
See, I thought you might be going to either that. I knew that was going to be like a top 3 that you might go to.
I want to know what was on your brain first.
So the way I obviously know of a lot of the older ones, but I was trying to think of one that I witnessed on TV, like that I was aware of at the time, because those when you're around for a collapse, it just feels different when you're watching it. For me, the Mickelson in 06, the U.S. Open, just not that 18th hole, just where he just ripped that driver, and he was there, and that's really Mr. Second Place at the U.S. Open. He just never seemed to be able to get over it, and then that just kept it going, and that was a heartbreaker for that.
I mean, shit. Think of Mito Pereira or Mito, oh, don't hit it in the water.
Yeah.
Speaking of recent collapse, and I don't see that as a collapse any more so. I see now, but with Phil, and this is kind of where I'm getting at with Phil, is kind of the Mito. I don't know if I would call that a collapse. I'm splicing hairs at this point because it's not like it was an overwhelming, over the top coronation that just fell down. Like Mito, obviously ball in the water, and the guy behind him had to make a solid number just to win. So it was very. We're talking Greg Norman at Augusta National going into the final round at a 6-shot lead, and it really did. I think even early, he had it up to 7, and I remember watching that, and my heart kind of went out to him at the time because he was, I would say, we still feel this way with Rory. Like Rory doesn't have a Masters, and there's something about that. They've got majors, they've got influence, they've been world number 1, they've gone down those roads, but there is something kind of insider respected about the Masters trophy that in that green jacket that just means a little bit more. And so Norman falling apart, and there's a great video of him. I want to say it's on 17 or 18, and he's falling backwards. His hat is falling off, and like he had just missed the chip.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, now looking back at that, I feel bad for myself for feeling bad for him because Greg Norman is doing okay.
I was gonna ask if you felt differently about that collapse for Greg Norman with the recent talk that we've had about Greg Norman on this show.
I'm so back and forth on him and Liv. Like I'm at one point I'm going, he needs to step aside, get a real CEO in there. He's not going to ruffle the feathers. And then he comes out and he's like, this is our brand though. And I'm like, he's got a point. Yeah. I think it just goes to show how little I care about that as like overall. Like we keep saying, like Liv's going to be there. It's not going anywhere. It's going to provide some entertainment. I think the Masters is going to be a lot of fun for us, and especially in the Twitter sphere. I think Augusta National will rise above and treat this. I think the word will get out really quietly. It definitely will get out to Scott Stallings, maybe twice, that don't bring that nonsense here. Like this is not a PGA Tour event. This is not a Live Tour event. This is Augusta National, and you will act accordingly. I mean, no. By the way, if they say don't bring your Live gear, don't bring your live gear. And I bet they would actually say the same thing. Like, I don't want any. Actually, no, they wouldn't say that to the PGA Tour. PGA Tour are partners with them. So I don't know. Maybe it will be a little bit like a high school cafeteria.
We'll see, I guess. Sorry, I still can't shake this.
Dying over there. Is this our last show?
What do you mean?
You sound like you're dying. I don't know.
No, this is what happens when we have warm days in winter and then no snow to follow it up because all the allergies are released, and until it snows and we get some sort of cover to bang all those down, I will be coughing. And it's annoying as all hell because no one wants to be around because they think I'm sick, and I'm not.
Listen,
it's just a tickle in my throat that pisses me off.
I'll be a tickle in your throat.
Oh,
all right,
Jesus.
one more piece of kind of off fantasy news that I saw out there in the golf world. Pinehurst. Pinehurst,
I saw
number
this.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is finally building Pinehurst number 10.
Okay, so you say finally. When is enough? Or are you cool with it?
I think this will be it. I think 10 is the number. I really thought they would have stopped at 9. Although if they go to 10, maybe they'll just finish off the back 9 and build 18 courses. Who knows? If I truth gun to my head, if you could say, where would you like to buy? If I win the Mega Millions tomorrow, the Mega Millions. I sound like such an old dude. Win the lottery tomorrow. Pinehurst is a golfer's, paradise. Pinehurst, but Pinehurst for different reasons, and they're relocating the World Golf Hall of Fame there. It really is going to grow even more and more. Tom Doak is going to be building that 10th. Tom Doak, great name. He also is redoing or redid the Renaissance over in Scotland, and then at the same time, he has a connection with the course that we're at this week, Waialae Country Club out in Hawaii, originally a Seth Rayner track. But what the heck? All right, sorry. Seth Rayner track. Seth Rayner also did Chicago Golf Club. And also, here's a fun fact. Seth Rayner did Waialae Country Club and locally Dedham. That's right. Dedham Golf and Polo Club here in Massachusetts. One of the Seth Rayner tracks that you can see. But Waialae is where they are this week. It got a facelift from Tom Doak a few years ago. It is 7,000 yards from the championship tees. It's a country club again, so we're talking about an accessible course for these guys. The difference being last week, wide open fairways, bomb it and walk away, big elevation changes. This is 7,000 yards, pretty flat. I think there's only I don't even think there's much of any, like 50 feet in some places, but I was reading the numbers because it's a country club for the locals that they even flip the front 9 and the back 9 so that you get the shots of the sunset during primetime coverage. So that it is kind of catered to that entertainment, let's go see who can go low out there. But at the same time, it is a little narrower. You do get that kind of cool palm tree lined fairways. There's the big W of the palm trees behind the 18th that now that I pointed it out, you won't be able to unsee it, kind of like the FedEx Point. But it is another week where the guys are gonna be able to get after this course and go low. What do you have to say about Waialae Country Club?
Well, I think you nailed it. It's last week this past week the fairways we talked about going into the show were very accessible. And this one it is going to be a bit different. When I looked it up on fantasynational.com, which is going to be a perfect segue here in a minute for our guest who just arrived. I saw that the driving accuracy on this course is way below the tour average across the year. So that is something that is to watch, but it's still, like you said, a course that guys can go low on. Hideki won it last year at minus 23. I said minus 23, 23 under. That sounded weird. 23 under.
We won't ban you.
So it's still accessible. There's still going to be some points. So we're going to have some fun this week again. And on that note, let's bring in our guest here because we're just going to start talking DFS fantasy now. And what a better guy to have in than the Moose himself from fantasynational.com. Welcome to Divots and Pivots.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
No
Hopefully
problem.
I didn't keep you guys too long.
Oh, no, you can't. If there's
please.
one thing we can do, it's fill time with random banter.
Oh,
I should say if there's one thing Bud can do.
oh yeah. Well, that's
And
perfect.
I did notice just right now, but picked his wardrobe quite fittingly this evening.
I did. I wore my Moose t-shirt.
Oh,
I
hell
picked
yeah.
Listen, son. Let's start right there. Moose. Where does Moose come from?
Oh my God, it's not as that. Like, I wish I could say it's from extremities of mine, or but no, it's when I'm a member out at Hazeltine National, and we have a member tournament, and we have a member tournament. There's a stag night, and kind of back before there were Ubers, one of our buddies would bring this huge RV out so people could crash in the RV instead of having to drive home.
Oh, nice.
And apparently I snored like a moose all day, or all night. So they started calling me Moose, and all the nicknames that all the junior members had like nicknames, and they were starting to kind of go sideways, like kind of get a little bit R-rated. And so I'm like, I can handle Moose. So let's just stick with Moose. And then when I first got into golf, or into fantasy golf, I started putting together a spreadsheet that I passed out to my buddies. And I'm like, what is this? Some Mooseonomics bullshit? And so that's how the Mooseonomics was born.
It's perfect. I love how like you can run with an inside joke and make it turn it into something big enough where people are now on board. Like,
yeah,
we all feel like there's something there. We know Moose means something. We may not know what it is until now when you're on the show, but I love that you just ran with that concept that just derived from friends.
Well, yeah. Well, and you know what else too is, I mean, this was probably 6-7 years ago too, and I was just trying to figure out Twitter. So I'm just like, oh, I'll do a burner handle. I'll be the Moose, and I just would call people Moose fuckers, like who'd ever like. Sorry, do you guys swear on your line?
Yeah, you're good.
Absolutely. Listen, Moosecock is one of the is the punchline to one of my favorite jokes of all time. We won't go down that road today. No, this Moose T-shirt came from a minor league baseball team in Portland, Maine, the Portland Sea Dogs, and part of the minor league, major league, basically Latino heritage awareness program. Every minor league team has an alternate uniform that they had, and this was the Portland Sea Dogs. It's a little moose shape. It's a little moose shape, and you can get.
I like how it's like
there.
a psychedelic moose too for
sugar skull down there.
Yeah.
So we're a bunch of hippies up here in New England. So no, that's freaking
No. All the hippies are in Maine.
Check it out. So if you Google Portland Sea Dogs, and this would be Alsace de Maine. So Alsace, ALCES, is the genus of the moose family. So the moose animal is ALCES, and they did de Maine, obviously de Maine, Spanish for of Maine. So Moose of Maine was their little nod to
unveil also. Yeah.
There it is. So it's a phenomenal. If Moose is your brand, you either go this direction or it's backwards to Abercrombie, and we left those days. So talk to me real quick. You started out with a little spreadsheet, which I like how humble it is, because for those of us in the game, and I'm new to the game, I don't know if you heard this. I just jumped on board fantasy last year, kicked Andrew's ass all over the place, and so I'm coming in for round 2.
I tell him it's because I spent so much time teaching him, I wasn't focusing.
He actually did. He actually did. He walked me through so much he forgot I was beating him. So you started with a spreadsheet. Where were you pulling your data from originally? Where do you pull it from now? Is it trade secrets? How do you put together this engine for us every week? What can you tell us about that?
So when it started, like the spreadsheet was just, so first of all, again, I remember at Hazeltine National, I'm not trying to like name drop, but at the time the Ryder Cup was going to be, the Ryder Cup was coming in 2016. And, you know, I knew golf a little bit. Like I could name maybe the top 5 guys out there, but, you know, I wouldn't know, I couldn't put together a fantasy lineup where I had to be, you know, spending $7,000 on, you know, God, you know, the $7,000 range. Had zero clue. Did I meet you? No. Okay, we're good. Okay. And so I was just pulling from their website, and I'd kind of just take their year-to-date ranks and make it where you could kind of create weights and put your own spreadsheet. So basically, I was just doing it because I wanted to learn how the guys that are coming to play Hazeltine, I wanted to know who they are. I played fantasy football, where all of a sudden you play fantasy football, you know who the wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins is, you know? So the idea was to try to, let's get into fantasy golf so I know who these guys are when they come to play my course. And then I started doing it. I'm like, this is really hard. How do you, there's so many stats, there's so many different things. It's not like there's a defense, so you kind of have to prepare against the course. So I initially found this forum, and I was like, hey guys, this is the spreadsheet I'm doing. There's got to be an easier way than I'm doing this. And they're like, this is awesome. Can you post this every week? Well, I guess I can. So, and that's just kind of how it ran. And then I, you know, I'm a web developer by start. I had a business to business wholesale air conditioning business, as exciting as that sounds. But I thought, okay, what if instead of categorizing air conditioners by how like their efficiency rating or whatever things that, their voltage, whatever, we categorize golf rounds. Was it windy? Was it scoring easy relative to par? And made it where it's like you're shopping for a lawnmower or something like that, where you can kind of look for different attributes and it spits out your own rankings and you can look at stats however you want. Like I said, that spreadsheet was all like year-to-date stats from the tour, and that kind of sucks, especially right now where the year-to-date started in, September, and some guys have played once or twice.
Yeah.
Now we can kind of go back through history and splice and dice. I just want each guy's last 50 rounds when they played on Bermuda greens.
Yep.
I know
when I first started hearing about you from actually watching the Pat Mayo show because they talked about it all the time with that, and I said, I'm going to go check it out, and then got into using it. I guess my question: you have so many great tools on here, including the mixed condition model, which is the one I love because that just saved me the time of making my own spreadsheet, and it just basically did everything that I was already doing anyways. What is there a way that you tell from your website what is that the most used tool that your users use, or are they jumping around to kind of putting their own stuff together based on everything else your site offers?
Definitely the custom models are huge, and I think a lot of people really rely on the mixed condition models. And mixed condition models are a little bit more advanced. They're a little bit more. You kind of have to learn about them, understand what you're doing to build it. Some guys just like to get in, get out. Like, so to me, honestly, like I'm just really lazy. I don't have 17 hours to spend like doing it. So I'll get in there personally and I'll throw on a couple filters. I'll sort, change my filters out, sort again. And I just kind of look for the names that keep popping up, and then I'll go check the course history. I don't know if you guys have gotten to the sneak peek area at all. Like, I don't even know why it's called sneak peek. It's been there for like a year and a half.
I was gonna say, I know I've been there before. I haven't been recently though.
That's because you've been in sales before, and you know that the name of the game is if you're new, it's exciting. Like I was new at a company for 3 years. 3 years before I stopped dropping that line. So what's about the sneak peek?
So the sneak peek to me is like, that's kind of where I'm trying to get everything to go. So it's got all your normal model stuff, but it's all built in right there. You can have like 3 different custom views in it. So you can pick your stats. You can build your models. Your models are way faster. I think if you do a custom model in the main page, it might take 15 to 20 seconds to like update. In the sneak peek, it takes about a second, and it's done instantly in resorts. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, I need to be using this. I can already talk.
And then like so, and like so, yeah, you can you can change out that graph to whatever you want. You can have that just show your putting splits. You can.
Well, also for visual learners or for visual, analysis, it's wonderful. Like I went to school for political science and stuff, and so some very base level stats and polling and like putting weights on things. I'll use the mixed condition models, and I'm very simplistic. I pick my key 3 for the week. I don't try to outsmart myself because, like you said, you can go deeper, but you really, 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 really need to know what you're doing, the deeper you get. So I'll even sometimes cheat and go, all right, what's the biggest thing this week? Putting. I'm just going to pick the best putters that I feel are also, showing up in other areas because I'm such a novice at it. I'm much more because of how new I am into the fantasy world. I'm like a old school baseball scout who's just now going, all right, Moneyball, I'm all about it. Teach me. Like I've not surrendered. I never put up a fight against it, but this is my introduction is this level of analysis. And so I go back to, when you're putting this stuff together, where are you just pulling your sources from like what the PGA Tour puts out? Where else are you pulling this? You pulled so many times. Like you have your own database now because from doing this enough that is also put into. Okay.
Exactly. So and now we have an official agreement with the tour where they're sending us the files at the end of the tournaments, recompiling them. A lot of the stuff like green speeds, that's information they provide. They'll track their stimp meter, but instead of me listing out the different stimps, I'm just saying, okay, fast, medium, slow, because you don't need to get that.
You'll lose people with too much detail sometimes.
Well, absolutely. And you also lose sample size. You know what I mean? If you're just only looking for times that it's 11.5, well, you know what? 11.5, 11, 12, you know what I mean? That's all kind of right in that that range. Let's not just look for exactly 11.5. You know, a half a foot's not going to make the world of difference, you know.
Hey, now half a foot makes all the difference. In the house.
I walked right into that one, didn't I? Zing.
No, but you make a good point where, and I said, I think I alluded to it earlier, where you get too granular and it does. I mean, in the statistics world, what you're talking about is, are you actually moving the needle, or are you still within that same margin of effectiveness or whatever phrase you want to use, to say, is there a difference when you take all these other things into consideration between 11 and 11.5 and even 12? Probably not. Once you get up to that 10, 11, 12, that's what you're kind of saying is like, when you can't get too close to it. Otherwise you lose it altogether. When you introduce people, I mean, guy at the bar, and they go, what is Fantasy National? What is your just kind of quick hit? I don't say elevator pitch because I'm too verbose. I say cup of coffee. So what is your kind of cup of coffee explanation for what this is for people who are going, wait a minute, what are you guys talking about now? Holy moose. I've never heard of this. By the way, that's a throwback to my camp days, 46 minutes in before the first camp reference.
Hey, that's
but
good
what
for
do you
you.
tell people? What's the kind of the easy Joe shit, the rag man
I wish it
understanding
was
of
just
what
as
this
simple
is?
as like, you know what? Sometimes I wish I was a kindergarten teacher because people go, "What do you do for a living?" I go, "Kindergarten teacher," and they go, "Oh, I know exactly what you do." So,
I was a kindergarten teacher. I taught kindergarten PE. Was my first job. Best
That's
job
awesome.
in the world.
And I know exactly what that is. You know what I mean? That's awesome. So I guess kind of the way that I'll describe it is I'll typically pull out my phone and I'll kind of describe how we categorize the rounds. And so what I'll do is I'll go, okay, let's just look at putting over the last 24 rounds. I sort by putting and go, okay, so these are the best guys. Now let's change this to just Bermuda greens. And let's remember these first three names. It went from blah, blah, blah to blah, blah. We do this, and then they see pretty quickly that you can go as deep as you want. And, if they want more, I'll talk for the next 4 hours. But, for the most part, that's kind of the thing that I always mention too is that we're not a tout service. We're not like, this is the pick. Like, to me, it's the greatest thing ever. Nobody fucking blames me when they lose because I didn't tell you to pick anybody. And then people are always, oh, we couldn't have done it without your tools. Thanks so much, Moose. It's like, you get the best of both ends. So, honestly, if there was a magic bullet and I figured it out, maybe I'd share it. Probably not. You know what I mean? But
I'd go Back to the Future too. You'd hold on to that almanac for a few years, get your bets in order, and then maybe share it.
Right, exactly. But to me, it's just about it. To me, it's about like being able to consume the information. Give yourself a chance against, like I can get in there and spend 10 minutes, put together 20 lineups, and I'm feeling pretty good about my lineups that week. Going against, I know I'm not going into the big GPPs, but I like playing like those 2,000 kind of, maybe max 20 entries.
Yeah.
And,
I was just about to ask, how is your fantasy game?
Well, it used to be pretty good. Since my company got bought, I'm not allowed to play fantasy. It's the stupidest fucking thing ever.
Oh.
So, which is why I've been kind of dark on Twitter. It's like I don't want to talk about it if I'm not putting my money behind it. But it's the stupidest it's the stupidest fucking thing. Like, if we're swearing here, it's like,
please.
Like, the company that purchased us also has a fantasy product that nobody uses, and they don't even offer a golf product. And because it's part of a fantasy company, I can't play.
It was actually, who was it? We just saw Bernie Kosar got canned by the Browns for putting a bet on out there. He said he was going to be the first bet now that it's legal in Ohio. He's like, I'm going to put 19 grand on the Browns, in honor, and he got canned. And there was people were bringing up the fact that, wait a minute, but don't the Browns and the NFL have an official partnership with a gambling site? Where are these kind of intricate? So when you say you can't even for funsies like enter, or are you saying like you can't put money on it?
I can't put money on it. So I could do private contests till I'm blue in the face. So me and my buddies will every once in a while we'll put together like a snake draft or something like that at 10 o'clock at night. We'll like go do one of those quick, but it's not the same. But yeah, no, when I was playing a lot, maybe 2 years ago, I'd probably put $500 in at the beginning of the year, and I'd play about $100. I'd play $100 a week, doing 20 lineups, and some years I'd have all 500, and some years it would be just about time to re-up at the end of that. But meanwhile, I played for a year on $500, and there's swing. It all depends. You got to hit. My philosophy with it always was like you want to just tread water. Week to week. Keep the bad weeks kind of minimal, and then hope that you get those couple weeks where you just hit it and you like win it all, and then that really propels you for the next.
The key is staying in that lane. When you win it all, you don't go and play bigger. Just
100%. That's exactly it, and that's where I felt like I'd say I was about a break-even player to just slightly lost. But again, I was never spending 6 hours. Like I kind of built these tools so I can get in there, pick 20 guys pretty quickly, and then I use the lineup generator and I'm done. So
in our part of the world in New England, you're just basically saying you wanted to work smarter, smarter, not harder.
Smarter,
That's
yeah.
what they would say.
That's exactly.
Smarter, not harder. So what about this? What about real golf? We talk about fantasy. How's the real game? Are we stick?
Well, I live in Minnesota. So where are you guys at, by the way?
Andrew, you lead it off.
I'm in southern New Hampshire. Bud here is in northern Mass.
Okay, so you guys are
northern Mass. I'm in Salem, Massachusetts, baby. Which city, USA?
Ooh.
But
Western Mass.
But I grew up in Florida.
But Eastern,
Florida, in Jacksonville and Tallahassee. So I'm the golf bum, the golf kid, playing year round. So you were just about to say, well, I live in Minnesota. When I relocated from Florida to Maine years ago in 2013, that was the first shock to my system. Was like, wait a minute, how many months until I can see the ground again? So what's the golf game looking like for you right now? And then peak Moose form.
Right now, like if I'm going to get out and play, I don't really give two shits about my score. Like, I'll get out, and we have a TrackMan up at the club. We have a couple TrackMans that you can just hop on a simulator, which is, I don't ever like go and play a simulator 9. Like I'll set up on the range and I'll like work on something there.
Sure.
I'm I think like a 4.2 index, something like that. I'll get as low as 2, maybe as high as 5, but it travels pretty well. Hazeltine's hard as hell.
Part.
Like, so, but when I'm playing out there, like anytime I can put a 7 in front of it out there, like I played a great round. It's super tough. If I go play a lot of other courses, I'm hoping to be kind of more, 75, 76 range,
Now, Hazeltine would be, that's a bucket list course for a lot of people. When you're that close to it, sometimes, I'm not going to say you lose perspective. You obviously still, the way you talk about it, there's a reverence, even the way you introduce it. Like, listen, when they had the Ryder Cup out here, we all know the Ryder Cup was out there, but I love your humility around talking about it. But when other than Hazeltine, what are some other big name courses? Because Hazeltine's a big name course, like I said, bucket list for other people. For you, it's your home track. What are some other places that you've been exposed to that wowed you?
Wow, man. Well, down in Florida, the Stream Songs. Stream Song courses. I've done a lot of like the resort stuff. I've done Pebble. I've done Spyglass. I've done Bandon. I've done Cabot. Cabot was really cool. I mean, if you're in Canada, I'd do it. If you're not, like it's a really long way to get there.
Where is that? Is that
Nova
Banff?
Scotia?
No.
Yeah.
Other part. Okay, that's up our way though.
So I mean, not too far from you guys, but yeah, like getting there, it was like almost a full day of travel getting there. It was awesome. The courses were great. I mean, you had some you should look it up. It's super scenic, but like
I'm going. I need to. I got actually a lot of friends who went to St. FX in Halifax. So
yeah, so you fly into Halifax and then you drive up like 4 hours from there, and it's right along course. I mean, it looks gorgeous. But like I did that probably 3 years ago. We just did Bandon, and it's like they got kind of the same vistas and stuff, but like the holes along the water at Bandon makes so much more sense than the holes along the water at Cabot. Like,
gotcha.
Like, so
what's still on the list? What haven't you hit that you're like that's either next or on the kind of
you know what, like
vision board.
Anytime I can get out and play just like a top 100 course, I'm always excited. I'm not one of those guys that's got a checkbox. Actually, my wife just bought me a little pin board with like the top 200 courses. So
nice.
Now that I say I'm not one of those guys, I literally have something.
You literally are.
I literally am. But
I know what you mean though by one of those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I got a bunch of guys at the club that's like, oh, I've played 85 of the top 100. And it's like, well, great. You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome. I don't, it's just not something that I'm
a golf purist. Again, I grew up in North Florida around the game. If anybody ever listened to the show, I like to name drop my own. Like I grew up at TPC Sawgrass. It was a phenomenal place to kind of cut your teeth on the game and have access to the same kind of way. But at the same time, I'm with you. I'll go play anywhere. I'll go in my backyard and hit a freaking golf ball. I'm a junkie for the game. And I don't get too high up. I'm not going to turn my nose up at any opportunity. Like, I think it's all really freaking cool, but I'm just like you where things are cool, but there's more to life, and it doesn't necessarily make my socks roll up and down. I would love to play the top 100. And my brother-in-law is friends with a dude who's played like 90 something of the top 100 as well. But the way he presents it, talks about it is not like what you were saying is, although those people, well, when I was at Stream Song Red, or it's like, it is cool because it is a fun game, and we are fortunate enough to have a hobby and a passion that is surrounded by some of this beautiful scenery in the world. And we all go out there and we basically want to kill ourselves afterwards. But really what brings us back to it and keeps us connected is stuff like fantasy golf and products like Fantasy National Golf Club. If there's anything, what do people need to do to get on this side of the conversation? Because some of our friends who might be listening to this are like, what the hell is Fantasy National? Is that where they play the Masters? So what would anybody need to do? How simple is it?
Okay, you go up, you sign up fantasynational.com. We got all kinds of different price plans. We got a week if you just want to test it out. I mean, I'd say if you like, let's say your friends are just going to be into it for the Masters, tell them to sign up for Fantasy National, do it 1 week, or, the week before the Masters comes out so they can kind of get the lay of the land, and then use that to help them make their picks. It's not going to make their picks for them, but it's just going to give them more information than they would otherwise when they just circle random names on their pool that they're in.
Well, it's a great point you made, too, because even your lineup generator that you have on your site, it still goes off of the information that you input. It doesn't just spit out off of a bunch of other stuff. You still have to do the work on your site, which I think is nice.
Yeah. Well, one thing about the lineup generator that a lot of people don't really know is actually the lineup generator is pretty dumb. I'll be the first. No, but because you know what? It's like if it was an optimizer, we have so many people. If what we did was optimize, everybody would get spit out the same lineups.
Yes.
So what we're doing is we say you pick your player pool, and then we're going to try to make your lineups as diverse as possible so that you don't have if you have 20 different lineups and 6 of them have the same 3 guys on them, and one of those guys go down, a third of your lineups are out the door.
Yeah, so your lineup generates more of an exposure controller.
Yeah, so it's like as soon as it adds 1, if you've got a lineup with 6 guys on it, and we're going to build the new one, first of all, it's going to say, okay, well, I think it'll allow you to it'll pick the first random guy there. And then as soon as it grabs another one, we'll go, hold on, do we have any other lineups that have these 2 guys together already? Oh, nope. So this guy's good. And then it keeps doing that all the way down so that it's trying to...
It saves the human from themselves.
Yeah, I mean, do you know how many times if you build it by hand and all of a sudden you realize that, oh my gosh, I just put Spieth and whoever, because the way that the pricing works, you could also start fitting so much.
Does that mean it just disappeared?
I mean, Moose, though, but what do you mean? If I see the same people in my lineup 17 times, that just means I'm right. And then I just go with that.
If they all go off, God bless you, but you're probably better off throwing $20 in a super factor.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I was being tongue in cheek. Yeah, no,
I know that. But that's just
that confirmation bias.
Yeah, if you're putting them in there that many times, well, why don't you go put instead of doing DFS where you're going to be lucky to get a 50% increase on the week, why don't you go just bet the guy outright and get 24 to 1 on it, or whatever that number is.
Well, I will say, because I know Andrew's got to land this flight pretty soon. I will say from everybody on the North Shore and the folks in my other league, muchas gracias for you introducing Moneyball into the layperson's hands. And so thank you so much. And we really appreciate you spending some time with us, letting us see behind the curtain. And hopefully we'll run across you again in the future.
Yeah, thanks. It's a pleasure.
And speaking of peeking, this sneak peek is my new favorite tool on here. I've just been staring at the whole time you've been talking because there's so much. It puts everything right in one spot instead of on 3 different tabs on my internet bar, my browser bar. So
Well, and then when you really got some time, go mess with the designer because you can do whatever you want there.
I saw that, and that looked dangerous to do live on the show, so I closed it real fast.
Smart thinking, but
yeah, no, this is great. Yeah, definitely go over, check out fantasynational.com. Super user friendly. It'll be straightforward, like Moose said. Sign up, pick your package, and give it a go because it'll. We're not gonna say it's gonna guarantee you make money, but it's gonna help you understand the game better and be better at your picks.
And have more fun making the picks.
And you'll have more fun, exactly, because you're gonna know what you're talking about. And that's the key. But look, I know we didn't get to me and Bud's picks, but you know what? We will put those out shortly here after the show. If not tomorrow morning, they'll definitely be out.
I got to do some more homework. I'm gonna tell you right now. Don't promise after the show. After talking to Moose, I got to go back. I got to do some rejiggering. Look for the picks early tomorrow morning.
I saw your face light up when he said lineup generator. You jumped to your computer so fast.
I just wanted to see where this stuff is. I'm a wonk.
So we'll post our picks. We'll post like our top 3 picks and a fade or 2 on the social. So make sure to at This Buzz for You, at Real Mr. Mallard, and you Moose. I believe you said it was at
the Mooseonomics.
Mooseonomics, okay. At the Mooseonomics. So go over and check that out. Like it's once again, fantasynational.com is the site. Get in there, get your hands dirty, and make some picks, win some money, and most importantly, have fun. That's what it's all about. Thanks again, Moose, for coming on. Bud, we'll chat. Everyone have a great Tuesday night.